Have you ever wondered why some people can still smile in the midst of adversity, while others lose their peace over something very small? Is life simply more favorable to them, or are they luckier than most of us? When you look deeply, you will realize that the difference does not lie in what happens, but in how the mind receives and interprets those experiences. The world has never been made up of only light or only darkness. Every day contains both joy and sorrow, hope and disappointment, gain and loss. But what determines the quality of your life is not what life gives you, but where your inner vision is directed. If your mind is accustomed to seeking only what is lacking, you will always feel that you are living in a world full of unfairness and dissatisfaction. On the other hand, when your mind learns to recognize the goodness that quietly exists all around you, even the most ordinary days become precious gifts. Buddhism has long taught that all suffering begins in the mind, not because life is too harsh, but because the mind is constantly caught in comparison, regret, and craving. We often believe that if only we had a little more money, a higher position, a more perfect relationship, or a more certain future, happiness would finally arrive. Yet once we achieve what we once longed for, that sense of peace lasts only for a brief moment before the mind begins chasing another goal. The search never truly ends because what is missing is not in the outside world, but in the way we perceive life itself. Imagine the mind as a garden. If every day you water only the seeds of worrying, anger, and disappointment, that garden will soon become overgrown with weeds. But if you patiently nurture gratitude, compassion, and the ability to see the good in every situation, the flowers of peace will gradually bloom. The wonderful truth is that this garden belongs to no one else. You are the one who plants the seeds, tends the garden, and ultimately enjoys the harvest you have cultivated. Good things do not always appear in pleasant forms. Some of life's greatest lessons arrive through failure. Some doors open only after another has closed. Some lonely moments become the very place where a person first hears the true voice within. If you look only through the lens of disappointment, every hardship will seem like a burden, but if you look with wisdom, you will realize that life has never stopped teaching you how to grow. The Buddha did not teach people to avoid suffering, nor did he promise that the path of practice would make every difficulty disappear. What he revealed is that when the mind is trained in the right way, suffering no longer has the power to control one's life. A person with a clear and awakened mind still sees challenges, but is not consumed by them. They still experience loss, but do not allow loss to take away their compassion and inner peace. They understand that all phenomena are impermanent, and that this very impermanence opens the opportunity to begin again in every single moment. Perhaps the greatest miracle is not making life perfect, but learning to see life with an entirely different heart. When you train your mind to recognize goodness amid endless change, you will discover that happiness has never been far away. It has always been present in every breath, every step, every person you meet, and every experience life brings. And from that very moment on, the world remains the same familiar world, but you will no longer be the same person who were yesterday. If there is one thing people most often misunderstand about happiness, it is the belief that happiness exists at some point in the future. We tell ourselves that once we get through this difficult period, once we earn more money, once we find the right person, once life becomes more stable, then we will finally be at peace. But as the years pass, old goals are gradually replaced by new ones. What was once yesterday's dream becomes today's normal, while the mind continues to run ahead as though peace is always just one more step away. This is how an untrained mind quietly creates exhaustion. It does not allow us to truly live in the present because it constantly directs our attention toward what is still missing. When looking at a garden, it notices only the withered leaves. When meeting a person, it remembers only the words that caused pain. When reflecting on life, it holds on only to failures, while forgetting the countless times it found the strength to rise again. Gradually, the mind creates a distorted picture of life, making us believe that this world is harsher than it truly is. Buddhism does not deny suffering. On the contrary, suffering is a truth that must be faced directly. But even more important is realizing that suffering grows larger or smaller depending on how the mind relates to it. A small flame can warm an entire room, but if you keep adding firewood, it will become a raging fire. Negative thoughts are the same. A sad feeling is simply a natural moment of the mind, but when we continually replay it, analyze it, blame ourselves, and keep feeding it, that sadness gradually becomes part of the way we see life. That is why spiritual practice always begins with observing the mind, not to judge it, nor to force it into perfection, but to understand that every thought is like a guest who comes to visit. Some guests bring peace, some bring anger, some bring anxiety. If we open the door to all of them and keep them with us forever, the house becomes crowded. But if we simply notice them and allow them to come and go according to their natural course, the house of the mind will always preserve the space needed for light to enter. In truth, seeing the good does not mean trying to deny the darkness. A wise person does not claim that life is filled only with joy. They know there is still loss, illness, separation, and things that cannot be changed. But they also understand that within every challenge lies an opportunity for growth. A single failure can teach humility. A single betrayal can reveal the value of sincerity. A season of loneliness can open the door to returning to oneself. When we view every experience with a mind that seeks to learn rather than resist, even adversity becomes a teacher. There is a beautiful paradox in the teachings of the Buddha. The more tightly we try to hold on to happiness, the more easily slips away. The more we fear losing something, the greater that fear becomes. The more we try to control everything, the more restless the mind becomes. But when we learn to let go of attachment, a sense of lightness begins to appear, not because every problem has disappeared, but because those problems no longer rule our inner world. Try observing a river. The flowing water never argues with the rocks blocking its path. It does not try to push every obstacle out of the way. It simply and quietly finds another direction and continues to flow. Because it does not resist reality, the river always moves forward. Human beings often do the opposite. We spend enormous amounts of energy resisting what has already happened, regretting what can never return, and worrying about what has not yet arrived. Meanwhile, the present moment, the only place where life is truly unfolding, is forgotten. When the mind is trained to see goodness, you will begin to notice life's simplest miracles. Waking up in the morning with a healthy body is no longer something taken for granted. A simple meal becomes an opportunity to practice gratitude. A brief conversation with a loved one carries deeper meaning because you understand that no one knows which meeting will be the last. This awareness does not make people pessimistic. Instead, it helps them live more fully in every moment. Gratitude is like a lamp lit within the mind. It does not remove the darkness of life, but it gives enough light to keep you from losing your way. Grateful people are not grateful because they have everything. They are grateful because they understand that nothing lasts forever. It is impermanence that makes every moment precious. A cool breeze would lose its meaning if it blew without end. A beautiful flower is more beautiful because it will eventually fade. A meeting becomes more precious because one day there will be a farewell. That is also when you come to understand that goodness is not something rare that life occasionally grants. Goodness is always present. The mind is simply too noisy to notice it. When the voice of comparison grows quiet, you will hear the birds singing. When greed softens, you will feel a sense of abundance. When you judge others less, your own heart becomes lighter. And when you stop searching for a perfect life, you will discover that peace is not found where there are no difficulties, but within an inner world that is no longer controlled by those difficulties. Every day quietly offers us a choice. We can continue nurturing the thoughts that weigh us down, or we can patiently cultivate the seeds of wisdom, compassion, and contentment. At first, this change is almost invisible, but like a seed that silently takes root beneath the earth, one day it will grow into a strong tree. Then the wind will still blow, the rain will still fall, and winter will still come, but the tree will no longer fear the changing seasons. The inner world of one who practices the path is the same. They do not seek to stop life from changing. They simply and quietly cultivate a mind bright enough to move through every change without losing themselves. After all, what changes a person's life has never been merely what they possess, the places they have traveled, or the achievements they have accomplished. What transforms a life most deeply is always the way they see the world and the way they see themselves. Every experience, whether joyful or painful, must pass through the doorway of the mind before it becomes happiness or suffering. If that doorway remains covered by fear, craving, and old assumptions, then even when life offers countless blessings, we will still feel only a sense of lack. But when that doorway is opened through wisdom and mindfulness, even during the most challenging days, light can still enter. Perhaps we have spent too much of our lives trying to change the things beyond our control, forgetting that the place most in need of care is our own inner world. We wish others would understand us more deeply, yet we rarely sit down to truly listen to ourselves. We wait for life to become gentler, yet forget to cultivate gentleness in every thought and every action. We hope the world will become peaceful, but if the mind is still filled with waves of anger, competition, and dissatisfaction, then that peace will always remain a distant idea. The path taught by the Buddha does not begin with conquering the world. It begins by returning to observe each thought as it arises, each emotion as it comes and goes, and each of our own reactions to life. Every time we recognize a negative thought without allowing it to carry us away, we take another step on the path of awakening. Every time we choose compassion instead of resentment, we plant another wholesome seed. Every time we pause to appreciate a simple blessing already present, the mind returns a little closer to its naturally pure essence. Training the mind to see the good as not something that can be completed in a single day, nor is it a final destination. It is a gentle yet steadfast practice carried out in every moment of daily life. Every morning we wake up as an opportunity to begin with a new mind. Every difficulty that appears is an opportunity to practice patience. Every encounter is an opportunity to cultivate compassion, and every moment we continue to breathe beneath this sky is a reminder that life is always offering us the chance to transform. If we are truly willing to see, at some point, you will realize that the most precious thing is not a life without storms. What is truly precious is that amid those storms, you are still able to keep an inner world that does not lose its direction. You will no longer search for happiness as though it were somewhere far away, because you understand that happiness is born from every wholesome thought, every grateful glance, and every moment of wholehearted presence with reality. When the mind is no longer bound by comparison, regret, or fear, life continues exactly as it is, yet everything carries an entirely different meaning. Tomorrow, the world may still be full of uncertainty. There will still be disappointments, farewells, losses, and challenges that no one can avoid. But if today you begin learning to train your mind to see the light within the darkness, to recognize opportunity within adversity, and to find gratitude in the simplest things, then one day you will understand that peace has never been waiting at the end of the road. Peace has always been quietly present in every step taken by the one who knows how to return to themselves. And from that moment on, life no longer needs to become perfect, because your own mind has become the most peaceful place to return to.